So where do you fall within the spectrum of upper, middle, and lower class? Take a second to ask yourself that question, and let's see if you were right. Hey guys, I'm Josh and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, we talk all things personal finance. In today's video, we're going to dive into how to determine which economic class we're in and why the shrinking of the middle class matters. So based on the commonly accepted income ranges for economic classes, my particular household falls within the upper middle or upper class, depending on what data set you're looking at. And as someone who grew up somewhere between lower and middle class, it certainly feels strange referring to our household as upper class. Like, ugh, who does this jerk off think he is? However, if you were to ask me which class I fell into before I knew this data, I would say middle class without a doubt. I'm sure you've heard it. The middle class is shrinking. But why does this matter? What impacts will it have on society? And where does it end? Well, based on data by Pew Research, about 50 years ago in 1971, the middle class composed 61% of households. Fast forward to 2016, that percentage has dropped a total of 9 points, down to 52%. While we've seen a steady decline from 1971 to 2011, we actually saw a 1 point increase from 2011 to 2016, which may be signaling a stabilization of the middle class, but I'm not really confident that's actually the case. What are your thoughts? Do you think the middle class will continue to diminish, or will it stabilize from here on out? So when households spend money on consumer goods and services, they introduce money into our economy, which aids in its growth. The lower class, well, they simply don't have the excess money to partake in this spending, so they aren't as big of a factor in impacting the economy as the middle class. This is why the middle class is so important for our economy. They buy stuff. And as far as the upper class, in proportion to their overall income, they tend to save and invest a larger percentage of their income when compared to the middle class. They buy the goods and services they desire, then the rest generally gets saved and invested. Some of them can even afford to build rocket ships and fly into space and still have money left over to invest. So needless to say, there's a large portion of money here that's getting socked away. And this money that's invested in long-term assets like stocks and real estate take advantage of tax benefits, whereas ordinary income is generally subject to more unfavorable tax treatment. Over the past 50 years, we've seen both the lower class and the upper class increasing in size, appearing to squeeze the middle class out. This means people are not only falling out of the middle class into the lower class, but they're also rising out of the middle class into the upper class. The data shows that we're indeed experiencing a wider and wider income disparity. In fact, this chart from Pew Research Center shows it nicely. We can see the inflection point right around 2008, where the amount of income held by the middle class was overtaken by the upper class. In 1970, the middle class held 62% of America's income, with the upper class holding only 29%. But as of 2014, the upper class held 49% and the middle class only held 43%. So it's going to be interesting to see how far the income disparity between middle class and upper class goes. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the disparity will keep on going? Or is something going to happen to change its current trajectory? So in the beginning of the video, I asked you to think about whether you believe you fall into the upper, middle, or lower class based on your household income. Well, Pew Research defines middle class as being those who earn 2/3 to double the median household income. And you will find different methodologies on how to come up with the different classes, but this one does seem like a fair gauge. Since Pew Research has a slightly outdated median household income, let's take a look on census.gov, where we can see the 2020 median household income is $67,521. And the whole reason we use median instead of average is because median is more of an accurate representation of the data. Half of the population will fall above the median, and half will fall below it. Now, if we were to use average, the data will be heavily skewed by the multi-billionaires like Bezos, Musk, and Zuckerberg. And for reference, the average household income was $96,955 in 2021. So 2/3 of the median household income is $45,014, and double the median household income is $135,042. So if your household income is $0 to $45,013, you'll fall into the lower class. And $45,014 to $135,042 will get you into the middle class, and $135,043 and higher will get you into the upper class. And to get into the 1%, you'll need a household income of $504,420. But we all know the actual buying power of your income is going to vary depending on what part of the country you're in. A $50,000 income in New York City might get you a small dumpster and some dusty Lunchables, while it'll have you living like a king in Mississippi. So Pew Research actually has a handy-dandy income calculator where you can see what class you fall into. The calculator is currently based on 2018 data, and it adjusts for cost of living based on your area as well as your household size. They even have demographic options such as education, age, race, ethnicity, and marital status if you're interested in comparing yourself to your peers even further. I'll put a link to the calculator in the video description. But determining economic class doesn't end with just your income. In 1986, French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu said that on top of economic capital, there are social and cultural capital. Social capital refers to the connections you have in your life. Having the right people in your social circle can open doors for you that you may not have even known existed. My wife and I recently watched the movie King Richard, which was the story of Serena and Venus Williams' upbringing. Now, I'm not into sports at all, and I thought it was a spectacular movie. And it was a great display of how tennis was dominated by those in a higher socioeconomic class. Those who could afford hiring a coach and attend costly training camps. There's an economic barrier of entry. Even if the individual has the talent required to excel in the sport, they must have the financial ability to pay these costs. Another alternative is having the social capital required for someone to open a door for them. For example, if Venus Williams had a child, I'm certain the best tennis trainers in the world would jump at the opportunity to train them, possibly free of charge. And this goes for us normies too. If we have people in our social circle who are very successful in their fields, there may be opportunities presented to us that wouldn't normally be present for others. I've personally experienced this years ago, where my friend worked for a company, asked if I was interested in getting a job with him, and next thing I know, I'm sitting in the office working there. And this was a job that wasn't even publicly posted, so it would have literally been impossible for external candidates to even apply without knowing someone within the company. And I can't say that I agree with or like that things are this way, but
it is what it is.
Now, my wife and I both have master's degrees, but I'm generally critical of college. However, I can't ignore that it's a time in which individuals increase their social circle dramatically, or their social capital. The people we're adding to our social circle in our college days have a decent likelihood of being successful down the road, which can open doors for us later in life. Individuals in the lower class, they may not be afforded the opportunities of having a social circle full of successful people. Now, I'm not saying go to college just to increase your social capital, but it is a variable we should be thinking about. Now, just to throw some statistics out there, 54% of Americans say they've made a close friendship at theirs or their spouse's workplace, and 47% say they've met a close friend at school. If we're working at McDonald's, I'd argue the close friendships we make at the workplace are less likely to open doors for us later in life than the close friendships we make while working at Google. So, cultural capital. Let me ask you a question. Do you know the proper etiquette for eating soup, or do you pick it up and slurp from the side of the bowl like I do? Well, this can be one of the differences between someone in an upper cultural class and someone in a lower cultural class. Now, cultural capital is a bit harder to nail down than economic class, which you would determine based on your income, but it is something that can certainly impact your life. For instance, you're probably not going to get hired by a reputable company if you show up to the interview wearing Jinko jeans and talking in memes. I'm sure you've heard this saying at some point in your life: dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. Unless your dream job is being Batman. Don't dress up as Batman when you go to work. So, cultural capital refers to knowledge and academic credentials, cultural possessions such as art, and how you speak and carry yourself. So, as we see, cultural capital can take various forms and can be far more subjective than you make this amount of income, therefore you fall into this particular class. As individuals, we like comparing ourselves to others. It gives us a sense of where we are in life. Are we on track? Do we need to step our game up? Do those in our social circle make more money than us? But as far as income goes, having a high income doesn't necessarily mean you're doing well for yourself. You could have a household income of $300,000 per year, but you're spending $350,000 per year, diving headfirst into debt. You may see families who appear to be doing really well for themselves, but But underneath the fancy cars and beautiful house, their financials are a complete disaster. So I say this to encourage you to use your excess income to purchase assets, things like stocks and investment real estate, things that are going to increase your net worth. Well, I really hope you got some value out of today's video, and if you did, it would mean the world to me if you click the like button and maybe share this video with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it. And consider subscribing if you aren't already. Thanks for watching. Peace. So where do you fall within the spectrum of upper, middle, and lower class? Take a second to ask yourself. Is because median is more of an accurate representation. Maybe Sigling actually saw a the lower class, well, they simply don't have the lower class. Well, I'll put a link. You're probably not gonna get hired by a reputable. You're probably not gonna get.